This week on Rockstar Superhero. Malacoda brings a different approach to the heavy metal world. Taking the long way around, the band has experimented with different styles and subgenres within the heavy metal scene and emerged with a sense of style and urgency. Their latest release, The Year Walk, came out in late 2021, and it's a sweet 15-minute extended player confection. For a guy like me, Malacoda brings a distinct subtlety to the arrangement, and one that resonates with me very, very well. Currently, the band finds itself a trio, and I was fortunate enough to meet both songwriter Lucas Di Mascio and bass player Zak Stulla for an hour-long chat that went off on the exact tangents I enjoy. We had a conversation, not a question and answer panel, and it was great fun. Make sure you head over to their webpage, buy the new EP, and definitely pick up some merch as well. This is Destiny, people. Please enjoy this conversation with the boys in Malacoda, because we did, here on Rockstar Superhero. Lucas and Zak from Malacoda, how are you guys today, brother?
Oh, not too bad. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm not dead. I'm not dead. As I was saying this. Yeah, well, I was saying a second ago, I got COVID a couple weeks back, actually on Christmas Day, of all things.
Oh, fun.
And on top of, let's see, there's three things that happened. I got to throw this into the interview because they're so important. But I got COVID. We were driving under an underpass and somebody dropped a rock on my car, which scared, blew glass all over us. And then when we got home, and this is Christmas morning, when we got home, there was a dead cat in our house.
Was it your cat? Or
yes.
Was it just, it was your cat. Okay.
Yeah. Our cat. So our children came home on Christmas morning to their favorite 17-year-old dead cat.
Oh, that sucks. Well, that was like that sounds like it was the best Christmas ever. Everybody's always going to remember that.
That's right. I mean, yeah, it's been burned into our psyches. So thank you, Jesus, for dying on the morning that my cat died. That's killer. See how I even went to the Jesus dying, which is an Easter thing, but So anyways, let's just jump into this, man. I am excited to have you guys here. We've been really trying for it seems like about a month and a half, maybe 2 months to put this together. You know what I mean? And Keith over at Infecting Cells is a buddy of mine. Turned me on to you guys back in December, and times being as they are, we just couldn't get together until today. So again, one more time, Lucas, Zak, thank you so much. I'm really humbled you're here.
Oh, dude, we're glad to be here. It's everything takes time, man. These days, especially because of the pandemic, everything slows down. Everything's people getting rocks thrown on their cars, dying cats, and things happen that slow life down, right?
Yeah, white people problems.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, at least we don't have to worry about, getting our heads cut off or sleeping on dirt floors, right? I mean, it is what it is. I know we're kind of joking about it, but the reality is if my microwave breaks, I still have a pretty cool life. And man, we're in a great predicament, if you want to call it that, because here we are, three guys talking about great music, and a lot of the world is suffering, right? You mentioned COVID a second ago. People are really lost in that, in the fear of that. And obviously I can't stand politics. We're not going to talk about politics. But the world's in a weird place, and so I'm really grateful that we have a band like Malacoda to give us some hope and some happiness and some joy.
I mean, that'll be the first time anybody's ever told us our music makes them happy.
Yeah, dude, are you kidding me? Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because we can definitely laugh at it, but it does. It puts a smile on my face, and I don't have people on the show that I don't dig. So there it is.
Well, there we go. Success.
Yeah.
We made it. We made someone happy.
Yeah. Okay. So I got to go straight to the name. I mean, I purposely, obviously, I have to do research when I'm doing these interviews, but at the same token, I like to leave them fairly open. I don't want to know too much because I want to discover it through you. So, Malacoda, I mean, obviously looking up, I read Dante's Inferno, but I don't know if it's a reference to the book or if it's a play on words or if it's something personal. So where did the name come from and what does it mean to you guys?
Well, I got it from Dante's Inferno. That was always one of my favorite books when I was, I think I discovered it when I was in, probably in grade 8 or grade 9. I was fairly young, but my family's Italian and my grandmother comes from the same town that Dante Alighieri was from. So she knew it was always telling me the history of it. Big, I don't know. The Italians are proud of Italian culture and they have some of the weirdest and most obscure, heroes, but, And I remember reading that book, Dante's Inferno, the whole Divine Comedy, and it was just like, wow, like this is this guy thought of this, and it's affected the way that people view religion and the meaning of life, and it's an interesting book, and the character Malacoda he's just kind of like a footnote. He's like in a couple of chapters, and he's just this kind of angry asshole demon that likes to just kind of play pranks on people and torture people and just for fun. Right. Yeah. And I love the name. I love what it means. And I love the imagery that's associated with it. So,
yeah. So is it all your fault then, Lucas? I mean, are you the one that Gotcha. Zach just showed up later and said, dude, seriously, Malacoda?
4 years later, I'm like, yo, cool name. Can I join?
usually people who hear the band name, they go, "Oh, what is this?" Like I thought it was like an Italian dessert or something like that.
Right. Dante's Inferno, sign me up. No, that's great. Yeah, man, that book is crazy and terrifying. I mean, if any of that were real, right? I mean, obviously it's a work of fiction and an incredible work of fiction. But I read it in college, and I remember thinking, if the first circle is that bad, like I'll believe whatever you tell me I need to believe right now, because I don't want to be chased by bees for an eternity.
Yeah.
That's some crazy, crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, it's lots of really rich imagery, and I think it's just something that, I mean, as a musician or an artist, like you can just always go to it, and you can always just find something and grab an inspiration or influence. From it, right? It's got so much depth. So I think that's also another reason why I picked it, was that way. If I was ever like, I don't know what to write a song about, then at least let's look at the band name and go, oh yeah, we have this whole thing going. So let's just just read through a chapter and see what we can take from this.
Yeah. Do you think the whole idea of Malacoda is going to be the theme throughout all of your work? I mean, is that, in other words, like, obviously we'll get to the year walk here, but that's material that had been actually written quite a long time ago and then had been sort of pushed off to the side, at least from what I've read. And yet, you returned to it and refined it. And I wonder how much of it is just, we only have a specific thing that we do in Malacoda, or is it open to, progression and change?
We're really open to change. Like, I don't think any of our albums really have sounded the same. Like, if you listen to the first Malacoda record, it's kind of like more of a like a prog rock, hard rock kind of record. And then you go to Ritualis Aeterna, and it's like this, sounds like Cradle of Filth almost. Yeah. And then you go to Restless Dreams, and I don't even really know what to consider that record. It's like, I think I was just listening to a lot of goth rock and was really depressed. So it was just like, it was like listening to Rush and then Paradise Lost, and that was it. And that was that, right? And then the new stuff that we've released the past year is like kind of going back to that kind of symphonic power-ish metal kind of vein. So I think I've always been open to, I think, artists should change. I'm never the guy to complain when a band changes direction, unless it's something where I really don't like it, right? Like, sure. Like, I love Opeth, and I was totally open for when they kind of dropped the death metal side of the band and they went more of this kind of what I call dad rock, prog rock, and I was like, okay, first album's a little bit rough, maybe the next one will be better, and I was like, wow, I really don't like this. Yeah. And then it just, I can't say I like anything Opeth has released from Heritage onwards. And I mean, you know, it's not that it's bad. It's just, it's not for me.
It's not for you. Right. Yeah, I've had that same experience. A buddy of mine, Jürgen Munkeby, is the front man for Shining in Norway. And I love that band. I loved especially the black jazz era. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but I love heavy industrial progressive jazz metal. That's the best way to put it, right? And I love that, and it's because it's such a thumb your nose to, you know, traditional music and, you know, pop culture, right? But like you, they are open to completely evolving and changing things up to the point that it really is about this. It really is about sort of flipping off the audience and saying, I dare you to care. I dare you to like this. And that hasn't always worked out well. So I love, but I mean, getting back to you, and more, you know, importantly, getting back to you, I mean, I've heard traces of everything from Queensryche and Megadeth to Symphony X on this last record, right? And I mean those all in love, right? As a 55-year-old man, I have a very wide, weird musical palette, and what turns me on about you guys is there are progressive elements, but it's metal. And it's like sort of its truest form. I'm not really a big fan of proggy noodling. I mean, I love the ability to do it, but it doesn't mean I want to hear, you know, a 12 bars of 11/16 followed by 7/8 followed by a car horn, right? You know what I mean? So you guys have found that elusive sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think for me, I've always been, and I think Zach as well, because like my interest in prog is admittedly fairly limited. Like, I like the stuff that my dad listened to growing up, and you know, I can name my favorite prog bands probably on one hand. Right. And I could probably do the same for my favorite metal bands, if I'm being honest with you. Right.
Right.
And, you know, I listen to so much music. I also work and I do like a bit of film scoring. I do a bit of sound design. I'm always kind of working on music. So I find if I'm only, you know, I don't understand people that are only into one thing. You know, to me, I just go, I would get bored of that quickly. So I think that for me, it's always been the song comes first, the genre. I could care less, you know. I mean, man, I've heard hip hop songs where I'm like, yeah, man, I think this is awesome, you know, and I love it. And I've also heard hip hop songs where I go, I don't get it. You know, I don't know. You have a very different musical background than me, though.
Yeah, I mean, like I come from more of like a hardcore and classic rock background because I have a really older dad that's like 73. So grew up listening to Grand Funk, and then all of a sudden my mind switched, and now I'm like listening to like Harm's Way and Knocked Loose and Chelsea's Grin, like all these like other side of the spectrum. Yeah. But I think that what's cool about what we're doing is that we find like a gap where we're not going too extreme into the progressive elements or like the symphonic elements. We're in that sweet spot where even if you're not like an active listener, there's still something that you can kind of like. And I think that's what's nice about this band and just writing music in general is it's always trying to find that spot where the guys that are hardcore are going to love it, but also the people that are new are going to still find something that they go, oh, this is kind of neat. Maybe I should explore this genre. And I think that it's nice being in that gateway kind of area opposed to being really dived in and locked into one sound. Like it gives us that flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right on the money, Zach. I mean, I think again, what attracts me to you guys, and you said it, I said it, the sweet spot. There's something about the melodic structures, the nature of the material. And for me, and again, this goes back to like us liking what we like. I really could not care less about lyrical content. And I know that's probably a strange thing. I'm the anomaly, but I'm a drummer. And for me, I'm listening to rhythm and arrangement, right? And transitional and the phrasing. Those are the things that capture me. They get me to bounce and move and I'm listening to the musical themes, not necessarily the lyrical themes. But you know what? You addressing something you said a second ago, Lucas. You know, you were talking about like, I don't want to hear one style, and I agree with you. But I think why people like the fans of Korn, for example, even though the band has slightly evolved over the years, right? It's gotten a little tighter. It's gotten a little more industrial, a little more rehearsed, right? It's not quite as loose and chunky. It's the lyrical content in that situation, right? People are going to the concert because they identify with the pain that's being expressed on the stage, you know?
Yeah, there has to be something, I think, when you are doing music that is lyrical. And I also think that's also why I think hip hop really blew up. When I was a kid, it was all hip hop that was big. You know, metal wasn't really the cool thing to be listening to, I guess. I think that's also why hip hop kind of blew up, was because it's purely about the vocal performance, right? And it's purely about the lyrics, right? And you know, I mean, there's so you can find tons of bad examples of bad hip hop lyrics. Just turn on the radio, right? But there is a lot of good. It is poetry at the end of the day. It's beat poetry at the end of the day. And I think that if you're doing music that has lyrics, you have to make sure that lyrics mean something. Like, I can't believe how many songs are like hit songs that have come out in the past, like, I don't know, a couple of years, where the lyrical content is the singer's butt. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a reason our parents said, don't listen to Elvis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Him and his gyrating hips.
Yeah. It's so dangerous.
Yeah. It's as a creative person, it's just not interesting to me. And it doesn't matter how interesting even the background music is at that point too, because the lyrics kind of ruin it. So, yeah, I think lyrical content can make or break it. But again, somebody who I listen to quite a bit of instrumental music, like movie scores and stuff. And I love classical music as well. There's no lyrics in that. Yeah. So I think, that can also, as long as the melody's good and as long as it makes you feel something, at the end of the day, I think that's all that matters.
Yeah. Can you imagine how different classical music would be if there was lyric content that talked about lubricated vaginas?
I mean, I think Bach actually wrote an opera about farts. I mean,
isn't that insane? We live in a world, but really, guys, right? What you just said is so important. And I know everybody's like, all my family's freaking out because I just said something like that. But here's the thing. That's what's on the radio. That song is about that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's disgusting. I mean, look, and I'm a free form, go for it, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to be, right? I grew up in the church. I'm a nice guy. I have my faith, but I'm not going to impress that upon people, right? I want them to seek that out if that's what they want. But to put out to our children, I mean, I have a 10-year-old daughter. I don't want her saying wet ass pussy. I just don't want it happening. Yeah. And I don't want my daughter to just have, free reign on the internet because, right. It's the nature of life, right? There's always more bad than there is good anywhere. Yeah. So we gotta mind ourselves. And going back to you guys, I think that's what's so incredible and why I wanted you on the show. I love that it's really great musicianship. It's really well-formed songs, great arrangements, again, highly performed and interesting, right? There's an intriguing aspect to what Malacoda does. And I think if you combine that along with, the content of what you're trying to say, and again, the sexy name, I mean, you guys are a no-brainer.
Thank you. Yeah. That's a great compliment. I mean, you haven't been in the band like that long. Well, I mean, you've been for a couple of years, but I'm the old guy in the band. I've been there since the start.
Yeah, I've been here for 3 years now. Wow. Coming up in April. Wow. End of April 28th. I know the date.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't even know that.
Will be my 30th anniversary.
He has it like tattooed on his it's like memento. He has all the important dates. The first show,
right on my left ass cheek. That's where it
is. Oh, we got to take a photo for the next EP.
Yeah. That's the album cover right there.
But I was gonna say, like, when you joined, because it's funny, like we always had a hard time like finding like the right guy. There's been a lot of like hired guns.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah.
Right. It's been mostly hired guns because I always had a hard time finding guys that, I'd be like, it's like a metal thing, but it's, it's not just the metal, we're not like the beer drinking, Slayer carved into my forehead kind of bands, right? Like I said, like I like listening. I would sooner listen to Queen's entire catalog than put on a Metallica album, right? That's just who I am. And I said, nothing wrong against Metallica. I still want to make heavy music, but I'm just find Queen just does it more for me and whatever. But when you joined, like what made you want to join this? Because you were in other bands too before.
Yeah, I was in like a lot of like thrash and like hard rock bands. Well, working with you beforehand, I just really enjoyed everything that was going on in the mix. And honestly, it was the groove. Like I was a drummer before I was a bass player. Like I learned bass to get into this band.
Wow. That's rad.
So, because I was like, this is really cool. But a lot of what it was the fact that putting the vocals aside, I too listened to a lot of the rhythms. I thought, not only is this stuff really good, but there's a lot of potential here. And having a rhythm player that's looking into those elements from like a drummer's perspective may give a really good take on how we can approach certain rhythmic elements apart from just the beat.
Yeah.
And so that's what really kind of drew me in, right? And as well as at that time too, I was looking for a lot of learning experiences, being 18 at the time. Wow. I was 18 at the time when I joined. So at that time, you kind of starting to find a serious band to get into, right? And it was really matching kind of the work ethic and intensity that I wanted to get with. And that was like with me. So that worked.
Yeah, man, Zach, you're in a good place, man. You've got, you clearly have a friend in Lucas, and you have material that you want to play, and you're young enough to really appreciate it and absorb it right now. So I mean, it's wise to consider this music and to actually learn the bass, as you had mentioned, to do something like this, because you're not going to necessarily have a lot of opportunities to be in a band that has, challenging and, unique sounding material. So you're really in a great position.
Yeah. And I think it pushes me as a musician too, because I'm a big firm believer on always keeping options open and learning as much as you can. Like I'm holistic, like I'm aware of that. So being able to, go from being like doing hardcore and thrash to all of a sudden being in something that's completely the other end, right? It really opens up my mind, not as just as a person, but also as a musician, right? Being like, wow, there's all these other things and elements that I can incorporate into just myself and the projects that I work with.
Yeah. So cool. So cool. I'm so happy for you guys. The new EP, The Year Walk, has obviously a unique title, and I've read that the band has had, I don't want to say it's too challenging, but maybe it was extraordinarily difficult, but a challenging time over the last few years. And I'm curious how much of that difficulty played into your lives and ultimately into the title of this work.
I'd say a lot. I mean, the past couple of years were just a roller coaster. I was flying by the seat of my pants, and there was just so many things that were out of my control. Like I'm you'll hear me. Everybody who's worked with me has heard me say it's rock and roll, not rocket science, right? And there's so many people that I worked with over the years, just on music in general, or even just like setting up shows, where it's like, wow, it really feels like it's rocket science at this point.
Yeah.
And it's completely out of my control. And yeah, with The Year Walk, I think we were signed to Rock Shots at the time, and we were getting ready to release Restless Dreams, which was the last album, full-length album we had done. I think it was in 2018. Yeah. 2018 was when it was slated to come out. And it was just, there was a lot of drama within the record label side of things, with the PR side of things. And then there was a lot of drama internally with some of the hired guns and the band members. And it was just a total mess. And I was getting really frustrated with just everything. So I find that when I'm really frustrated or not feeling right, that's when I do my best writing. Like I don't have to force it.
Yeah.
It just kind of comes out. So I literally wrote an album. All the songs that we've released, except for two, I wrote over the span of like a week.
Wow.
More or less, a week or two.
Fully formed?
Fully formed. Keyboards, drum demos, vocal, like pretty much everything. Yeah, over the course of 2 weeks, and then I cleaned it up by the end of the month, and then. Yeah, and I was like, I kind of was like, wow, and this is before the Restless Dreams was even out. And I was like, wow. And the Year Walk, I kind of wrote it then. I don't think I called it that. And I definitely had some slightly different lyrics. But that song was kind of about a very specific kind of feeling. A Year Walk, I think when I had come across the term, it was, I went to Sweden years ago, and I'm really interested in just European history, and there's a Year Walk was almost like a vision quest that the kind of like natives of Sweden, the Vikings, if you will, would go on. And it was kind of like they would be starving themselves in the coldest months, and they'd be trying to meet their ancestors. And then when the church came in, they kind of were like, oh, that's kind of messed up. How about this? How about you just spend a night, every night, instead of going on this vision quest, just hang out in the cemetery, because that's where your ancestors are buried now. So you have these youths starving in the cold, trying to communicate with the dead in cemeteries, which I'm like, that's kind of messed up. And I kind of felt like at times that's kind of what it felt like working with some people. That's what it felt like. I was like, I have to go on this kind of, I have to starve myself, and I have to basically deal with the supernatural just to get a result. Right. So it was very frustrating. And I think quite a few songs in the past, the ones that we've released the past year, the ones that we sat on for so long were pretty much just about things related to that for the most part, just how friggin' tough it was to kind of just get anything done. Even when you have a manager, you have a record label, you have a PR guy, and you have a full band, it's still like pulling teeth.
Yeah. I mean, what you said a second ago about being in the cemetery, it's so true with the music business. I mean, you spend all of your time basically trying to communicate with dead people that don't care what you have to say. They think they have a vision for you, or they're so self-obsessed that they're not right. They're taking your money, but they're not necessarily interested in working with you in a deeper capacity because you are a product. Yeah. Or, I mean, if we're you're not even a product half the time. You're just a way for them to make money. You're just, you're not even really an investment. You're just, you're a freebie. You're a piggy bank, basically. Yeah. So, they're hoping they hit it out of the park with you. They'll sign you to a deal. They'll get you stuck, financially and contractually with them, but they're not going to help you until you show them what you're capable of. No. And it's, I think that was a kind of a real turning point for me figuring that out, because, we kind of, now we're kind of like, screw everybody else. Like, well, I mean, I built a recording studio, right, like years ago. So we're pretty self-sufficient there. I like working on video stuff. And, if there's something that we can't do, I don't mind, paying somebody a professional to do it. But yeah, it's like, I think that most bands have to, it made me realize that if we're going to do this, we have to everybody has to be all hands on deck. We all have to treat this like we're entrepreneurs. And if somebody can't pull their weight, then they have to, they have to get out of the way, basically. Yeah. So yeah, that's it's as I said, I'm surprised that it made you happy, the EP, because it's like, I don't really write about anything happy. Well, no, I mean, I know, but I'm a happy guy. Okay. I mean, sure. Look, I struggle with stuff too, of course, but in general, I mean, so I hear something that moves me, motivates me, makes me bounce, makes me bang my head, makes me do whatever. But if there's intent and there's power, that completely lights me up, So I am the old guy that's sitting in the car banging his head, but I got the big smile on my face. I'm not pissed off about it. I'm thrilled by it. Does that make sense? Yeah, totally. Yeah. Here's what I want to say about the new EP. Here's what's brilliant, and I want to use the word brilliant because of to me, there's a business direction here that it isn't just an artistic direction. You're clearly a good songwriter. As a duo, you guys clearly have figured out how to make things click, the music flow, things work. But we live in a musical culture now that is all singles all day. Nobody's putting out albums, and when they are, they're still loaded with filler. Yeah. And what is brilliant is that you said, you know what, we're going to drop a 15-minute EP. we're going to put our best stuff. We're going to smash it together, right? And we're going to put it out, and people are going to hear us condensed the way you should hear us, fully formed. This is exactly what we sound like. It's all killer, no filler, right? And I think that's really smart in this day and age, because there's so much material to get lost in, that if somebody stumbles across your work, and hopefully people will, after they listen to the show, will go pick it up, or go listen to it, tell their friends about it. It's going to stick with them if they like it, because they're going to realize, oh, this 15 minutes, it all sounds like this band. I like this band. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would say. I mean, it's with like, I think what we tried to do is, because before we did these EPs, like, we released 3 EPs over the course of a year, right? Mm-hmm. We just basically took these songs, and we said, I was like, I don't want to do an album. Let's just, because it's the pandemic too. It's kind of like, we're going to release an album, and then can we get together? Yeah, that was the other hard thing. It was so hard getting together and even figuring any of this shit out, right? I think it took way longer to get things done because of it. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like, I kind of thought, well, we should just try to keep the full year, like all of 2021. Let's just, every couple of months, every 3 or 4 months, let's release an EP and do, like, a couple of months of PR for it, and just, see what comes of it. At least that way we always have something there. Right. And if I was being totally honest with you, I didn't really know what I really wanted to write. I was writing some music for some other projects, and that was going kind of cool, but I really didn't know what to do with Malacoda sound wise. Right. We honestly didn't know. Like, even these EPs, that's another reason why we released them as EPs and not an album, is because I kind of felt like, I don't know how bold of a statement I want to make with these songs that we had sat on for so long. And also because, like, if you look at the credits, every EP has like 2 different drummers on it. Right. Yeah. And we have some guest vocals that we get recorded in like 2019,
that year before. Yeah.
Right. And then it's that we're like, okay, and it's just a hodge. Like, it's honestly, it was a nightmare. Wow. And I don't even know why I agreed to re-record things like guitars and stuff like that. Like, that was just dumb. We were just, I don't know. I think we were just bored during the pandemic and losing our minds because we couldn't gig. So, I kind of feel like what we're going to be doing moving forward, we learned a lot from these EPs. We learned that, it's very hard to kind of do that kind of music, like with a big symphonic production and these really bold statements with the artwork and stuff. Like, this is the first release that we've done since the band started that didn't have like a proper music video. Oh, and that I love music videos. Yeah, probably. Yeah. It's not many people like care these days, but I love music videos, and we always had like pretty well produced music videos with a budget behind them. And we couldn't do that for these, because every time we went to go set something up, it'd be like, okay, yeah. A week before, everything shuts down again. And we're like, okay, so when can we do this again? And then schedules. And I'm kind of like, if this is going to be the case moving forward with some of this stuff, like if the next year is everything's going to be closed again, then like, I can't do that again. I can't just do nothing and do a hodgepodge of things. So I kind of thought, this is a test to see how this is going to go and what we should be doing. And I think we learned, basically we want to take more control over what we can do. We want to be able to pull off a music video ourselves if we have to. And I know you can't do like a big budget music video. So we have to kind of do something a bit more indie. And honestly, if you listen to a lot of symphonic music, like, Camelot and Nightwish, their music videos are like movies. Yeah. Right. You wouldn't see them do a low budget indie kind of. No. So we're like, yeah, this is our last hurrah for this big symphonic style, I think, for now. Yeah. You need to do the Russell Mulcahy version of like Highlander, right? It's all slow-mo and silk. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're laughing, but it's true.
You're right.
That's absolutely the expectation. I mean, if Nightwish did like a video of them sitting on their front porch, you'd be like, "What the? What
is this? Yeah.
Where did my epic Nightwish go?"
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well. So, what's your proudest moment on the EP? I mean, is it just the fact that you finally got the thing out?
Oh, what is it for you? I'm curious.
Oh man,
poor Zak.
I'm trying, honestly, just getting it out. But even that was like my first ever professional recording experience.
Okay.
So I think for it to be as like chaotic as it was, it kind of taught me as well, which made me kind of a proud moment for me. Was like learning, okay, like when you go to record things in the future, like dead on structure, like you have to have like hard deadlines. Don't try and accommodate everything. Like it becomes unrealistic. Because there's always talk of let's have all these guest musicians, let's redo every single rhythm and all this stuff, right? So it was now along the lines of, okay, let's just, when it's done, it's done. And once we're happy with it, there's no need to really go back again and redo everything.
Yeah.
I think one of my proudest moments is, and this is a cool little tidbit about the recording, because like this was mixed. The other two EPs that came out this year, I mixed and I mastered one of them, but this one, The Year Walk, was mixed and mastered by Jeremy Kling.
Oh.
He's in Venom and Human Condition and stuff. And
I knew that name.
Yeah. We worked with him years ago on Rituality Eterna. I think he mastered that one. Yeah, he didn't know. Jon Howard of Threat Signal mixed that one.
I love Jon so much.
Yeah,
John's such a great guy.
I go way back with that guy. So he's worked on a few other. He worked John again. He did Restless Dreams. He mixed that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and we tracked drums for Rituality Eterna at his studio, because I couldn't do it because we had a drummer. We hired a drummer, had a 30-piece kit, and I was like, that's not going to fit in here. So I was like, hey, can you do it? And I think he went out. I actually think he went out and bought a board just so he could do. And I think he told me that after. I'm like, you didn't have to do that. You could just told me to go screw myself, right? Like,
right.
But I think the thing that was cool with Your Walk was, for me, Jeremy heard it and he instantly was like, oh yeah, you guys are kind of like going like this kind of Camelot, Nightwish kind of route. I'm like, yeah. I said, yeah, I think that's kind of like the direction that we're going for this EP. And he said, Thomas Youngblood used to live down the street from me. I was like, really? I said, that's pretty awesome. And he's like, do you want me to see if I can get his Kemper file for his guitar tone?
Oh my gosh.
I was like, sure. And he got it. So the guitar tone is actually, I think, Thomas Youngblood's guitar tone.
Wow.
So I was like, that's cool. So to me, that's the proudest moment. That's the closest I've gotten to playing with Thomas Youngblood. So
yeah. No, I mean, that's a really cool killer tidbit. It's something actually I'd like to talk about that for a second. Again, I'm a lot older than you. So my recording experience back in the day was always, you go to rehearsal space, you write all the material, you refine it. It's as good as it's going to get. You go in and you track live, right? You might track with a click, but a lot of times you just, it's just free flow, the band, mistakes and all. And you do 5 or 6 takes and you take the best take. And, you might play along with scratch tracks, but for the most part, that's how it goes. And then, you do your vocal parts and against the same thing, and you just build the track that way. Nowadays, with the proliferation of home studios, you can really sit and milk it. But what most people don't know, and that's what you're referring to, is that nowadays most music is, tones are reamped. They are added or layered on top, completely changed. So in the old days, you would take a guitar and you'd plug it into an amp, and you'd put a microphone in front of it, and that was your sound. And you might get effects because you could play it through a pedal board or, effects at the mixing desk. But nowadays they're running a clean tone out to the board, and then they're changing the tone synthetically. after the recording, and that's what you're talking about, correct, Lucas?
Yeah. So for me, I've been a recording engineer since 2009, and I've worked out of commercial studios, product studios, like you name it. I've worked out of it. And for me, I've always said it depends on the music. Like, like I still love recording amps. Like I love recording amps, but it depends on what it is, right? Like, what's the focus? If the focus is, if you have like a really good guitar player and you're playing with a lot of different tones, like lots of clean tones, driven tones, like if it's like an Opeth thing, or like I don't know, like some Steven Wilson, something like that. That's got a bit.
God, I love Steven Wilson.
Yeah, me too. Oh my God. And if it's something like that, then I'm going to want to use a real amp. If it's a metal thing, like if it's like a thrash metal thing and the focus is like, the guitars are like really good riffs and it's like they're really tight and they've got it, then I'd like to use an amp. If it's something where there's a lot of processing, and I've always said this, and this is really controversial, but I actually believe that more production time goes into metal than pop.
I believe that
for modern metal, at least, a lot, not like something, not enough Cannibal Corpse as a record, but if it's like, Amaranth or anything that's got like production behind it, it's going to be more production time than pop. I'm like, well, for this, we recorded everything DI, guitars and bass. Like it's all DI and it's all VSTs. It's just amp sims that I had installed on my computer, like a lot of Joey Sturgis tone stuff.
Wow.
And and even live, I mean, if I'm being totally honest with you, we don't even use amps live. We just use a line.
Boss GT1000.
Boss GT1000, and then we just send that out to the front of house, and we all have in-ears. Bass amp, the bass is, we don't even use a bass amp, it's a Sans amp.
But why not? If you can do that, I mean, that's the difference. That's what the world is. I know that's what you guys are doing. I know that's what most bands, certainly heavy bands, are doing. But it blows me away that kind of technology is available right now. I mean, I would love, and I'll toot my own horn for a second. I would love to do sessions for a lot of these guys that need drum parts. But the truth is I don't have any of the, the modern gear. So I'd have to go really drop a lot of coin to get converters and everything, and to do it, at the level other guys are doing it at. Right. So regardless of my own personal skills, I don't have the gear, and honestly, I'm not motivated. I'd rather do this and talk to guys like you and push you up the ladder and help you achieve the success you're seeking. So,
recording's come a long way from back then. I mean, it's even come a long way within the past 10 years.
Yeah,
I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Well, so then that leads to the next question, which is, at least in my mind, what does the music business feel like for you now? I mean, first of all, are you a day-to-day musician, or are you like all of us, music is a passion, it's something you build, but you have a normal job?
I mean, I've been working in music pretty, not on and off, just on for a very long time.
I had a feeling. Yeah.
There were times, there's always been times like when it would become like a particularly slow month, like, I'd become a bartender for a summer and then I'd be like, cool. And then, cause it'd be just like really slow. Like during the pandemic, it actually was rough.
Yeah.
I haven't really recorded many bands, but I've been getting lots of artists sending me mixes, things to mix rather. And, like it's not too bad, but the other thing too is that musicians don't usually have the most money in the world. So, which is why I think it's also important to look at other things. Like I teach Pro Tools lessons online.
Wow.
I'm
very cool.
TA at a college, right? That has a music production program. I'm trying to work more into sound design for video games and cinema. So it's like, you always have to be, if you're going to be working full time as a musician, you've got to do everything. Like there's no pension plan if you're a musician. There's no retirement. Like
there's no future.
No, there's no future. You just work until you die, right?
It's true though. I mean, it is. They all think we're crazy too.
It's like my girlfriend, she's a graphic designer, right? And like she's working on art, like she's doing like posters for like Broadway and stuff. She at least I find in graphic design there's always like a graphic design department for a company or a production team. For music, it's almost always outsourced to like a composer or an engineer.
And I have to interrupt you, Lucas. It's expected to be free. I have no idea why this is the case, but music has turned into a thing that, well, why shouldn't I get it for free? I mean, he'll give it to me for free. And you know what it is? I deal a lot now in this day and age as sort of my primary. This is my primary, if you will. But I do a lot of coaching now, life coaching and that sort of stuff, and talking to people about mental health and addiction and sort of overcoming struggles. Yep. And really, what it comes down to is creatives, whether they're musicians or painters or whatever in the artistic field. We are so desperate for people to hear or see our creation. And we're so desperate to feel the love we get from that we will give it away, right? We don't value ourselves enough. And I think that's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I think it's funny how it works is like, do you know how many, I can't even tell you like a number, how many times a month I get somebody that'll either show up at my studio door or call me or email me, and they'll be like, hey man, I want you to work on my record. And they don't have any music. And then like, I'm going to be like the next YouTube sensation or whatever. And then when, can you give me a deal? And it's like, a deal for what? You haven't even told me what the job is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they don't know. And then I'm well, dude, I'm at $60 an hour.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who you are. And that's just my rate. And if you want me to make something, it's going to be like $300 because I don't know what I'm working with. you know? And I find like musicians and stuff like that, they've kind of let that happen, this expectation of it to be free, because so many people approach it so lackadaisical. I mean, you've even heard stories like from like the 70s and 80s of how so many famous musicians have nothing between the ears. Yeah. And they just cause a lot of problems from a business and a social perspective, right? Yep. So I'm not really surprised that it's kind of gotten this way, because there's a lot of people who do want to do this seriously, and if they got to deal with a bunch of clowns, then how is everybody? Why would anybody see any value?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, because we look back at like, say, the Motley Crues of the world, right? Which are famous, just actually more famous for their antics than they are for their material.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what people wanted. I remember, I mean, again, I'm a lot older. I did my first record when I was 12.
Right.
And so when I was 20, so 1985, Motley Crue, and I mean, like all the big LA hair metal stuff is coming up, and that was the dream. I wanted to be like them. It wasn't that it was all about, going and getting laid and all that other stuff. I mean, those are awesome bonuses maybe, but I wanted to be a well-known, admired musician. I think the hard part for somebody like yourself is that you are a professional in a world of idiots and clowns, because it's the 80-20 rule, right, Lucas? Yeah. You put 100 people in a room, 80 people are idiots. They're led by the 20. It doesn't mean that the 80 people are bad or intentional, or, like they're willfully stupid or something like that. They just need to be led. But they're also open to just taking whatever happens. Like, whatever happens, I'm good. And you're saying, no, man, I want to do this thing because it's important, it's special, it means something, and it should mean something to you. Yeah. Right? You're fighting the uphill battle, brother.
I can't tell. I mean, you and I have worked with some of the same musicians as well. and I can't tell you how many bands I've worked with where like they couldn't give a shit about their own stuff.
Yeah.
And when I'm the engineer or the producer, and I'm the only one adhering to deadlines, and I'm the only one asking, hey guys, like, when is this going to get, when are you coming back to do this? Hey, why haven't you set up your guitar yet? Or why haven't you written anything? Right. Like, we both have stories about bands that we've worked with, and we're just like, we're not even in the band.
Yeah.
Right. And we care more about it. Like, why would you bother doing it? Why would you spend all this money on guitars? Like, buying a good guitar these days is like, a decent one is going to be more than $500 Canadian.
Sure.
Right. It's going to be around maybe $1,000. Right. So like, as soon as I put that much money into my first guitar, I was like, okay, I have to like do this, right. Because it's like, that was like 16.
It's an investment.
It's an investment. Right. And then, then you buy your first preamp. Like, I don't know how much money I've spent in just this room alone, right? Like you can probably see, like you can see the board,
a lot of stuff,
and there's just guitars on the wall, and there's more tucked away everywhere else. And it's like every day I have a reminder of, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Right. I have to make sure that this is I can keep doing it because I love it. And yeah. But you know, even in your experience too, like
like it's the same thing. A lot of it is about being the rock star, not the music, which is what I'm noticing. I also find that there's like a disciplinary kind of difference at times too.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working on certain music and stuff, like whatever process you're in, you got to lock in and just get it done. And I find that with a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in the solo projects that we've kind of been involved in together, it's always been like externally, it's been like different. They're not locking in, is what I'm getting at. It's always like they're on to like, okay, how do we release this? It's like you haven't even recorded it or like written half the material. You know what I mean? Like, let's book a music video. Like the demo is not even done, man. Like, you know?
Yeah. You're a wise guy, Zach. I mean, obviously Lucas is as well, but I guess what I was trying to say is you know, you're very young and you have good head on your shoulders, and that's going to take you a long ways. And I think partnering with Lucas and creating the material you create, a lot of things are going to change around you, but it is so hard because you're dealing with a world that, like you said, doesn't care, or thinks it's something it's not, right? I mean, look, every fan in the world thinks, you know, if for example, if they watch this video, whether they're watching it live or if they're watching it, you know, later, a lot of people are genuinely thinking that all three of us are famous simply because we're on a video.
Yeah.
And that we're rich or that we drive fancy cars. I mean, I have some nice stuff, but I'm also 55. I've earned it. I've gone through a long life. It's just that, you know, the decadence of the rock world, with a few exceptions that may be behind the stages at festivals, it doesn't really exist anymore. It just doesn't. And thankfully it shouldn't. It's not good for you anyway. God, I sound like an old man.
The kind of the age of the rock star is kind of done, you know. I mean, the people who are like famous now, I'm like amazed at, like, I'm like, wow, who the hell is Machine Gun Kelly? How come I've never heard of him, and why is he so big? What, he's like married to Megan Fox now? What? And then I listen to it and I go, I just don't get it. Right. And you know, it's not to knock his music. No. Not that he's ever going to listen to it.
It's just not for you.
But it's just, I just don't get it. And I'm like, you know, I can understand how, like, you know, I think I can understand how Kanye West got famous. The people who he worked with. Like, I don't really listen to him, so I don't really know. But like, I kind of like the marketing made sense, and like, you know, he didn't just come out of nowhere. It kind of seemed like there was a gradual build. Whereas I felt like some of the artists that are coming out now, it's just like, this person's famous and I've never heard of them. Yeah. You know, and I don't really, I don't get that. And it's like, you're not hearing like the typical rock star shenanigans. You're just hearing weirder shit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all bite-sized music now, right? It's meant to be consumed quickly and forgotten. I mean, that's how we get away with, you know, wet ass pussy. Right. I mean, seriously, I mean, because it's freaking gross. When you get down to it, it's freaking gross. Yeah. And I don't understand what's going on anymore, but I guess I'm grateful for guys like you that refuse to lose, right? That you refuse to cave in to what's currently sexy or stupid or might give you more YouTube hits today. You know what I mean?
It's funny. I can't remember who I was talking to. Actually, it might have actually been my mom. She actually brought up this actually really good point, and it's always stuck with me because I was just like, you know what, that's a good question, and I don't have an answer to it. And I've posed it to a lot of different people, and they haven't been able to give me an answer or a good one that I'm like convinced by. And she said, you know, when you listen to music now, she said, you know, when she was young, she said, okay, you have Frank Sinatra, right? You know, that's music that, like, you know, that's timeless, right? Yeah. And, you know, an older couple in their 40s and 50s or their 60s even would go out and see Frank Sinatra, but it was also good for the youth. But, you know, those people who are in their 50s and 60s, they're going to try to find, you know, they might be more inclined to listen to like Michael Bublé, right? Than, you know, Cardi B, right?
Kind of.
Kind of, yeah. So she had asked me, what kind of music does a younger or a middle-aged man make? Who is his audience for?
Mm-hmm.
I can't write Wet Ass Pussy. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not convincing, right? Like, we'd go up there and sing it, and what would we do? We can't, right? Like, it's just, we can't.
Right.
I can't. Even like hip hop, I find a lot of it is certain types of hip hop I find is it has a bit more between the ears, but there's a lot of it where it is pretty mindless, and it's really catered to teenagers,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Even metal, I would argue, a lot of heavy metal is catered to teenagers or to the youth or to people of a certain demographic, right? So what kind of music, as can you imagine Corpse Grinder doing this at 60? No, like, or 70 even, like, he's not Frank Sinatra, who was a musician till the day he died, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of music is there for that demographic, for people who are older?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know anymore. I mean, but here's what's interesting. It's cool that you bring this up. And maybe this is a good way to end, right? But what is interesting to me is I've found that as I get older, I've evolved from the pop and prog rock stuff. Again, being a drummer who, what drummer isn't going to want to play along with Rush songs, right? It's just what we do. And, but I've found over the years, I've gotten way, way heavier, way darker, way deeper. And I'm not negative. You know what I mean? It's not like it's speaking to me. Yep. It's speaking to my soul because it's angry and bitter. No, it's just the material, the music itself. I want the heavy, dense. I want gent, right? I just want big, chunky, heavy groove, like Atlas. I love Atlas. If you're not familiar with Atlas, look them up. That kind of thing. So I found it's hilarious. Now I'm at this place in my life where Gojira is the band I would rather see than Kansas.
Right.
And really, I freaking love Gojira. And I mean, I take my pastor from church to go see Gojira.
Nice.
And he loves Gojira.
That's awesome.
Because we're cool.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know if there is such a thing anymore. I mean, again, there's so much content in the world, with the YouTubes and everything else. There's so much out there. Why can't we just like it all? I mean, I hope that Cardi B, no offense to Cardi B, I'm sure she's a nice lady, but I hope that stuff goes away because it's freaking disgusting. It just is. It's not an old person thing. It is disgusting.
Yeah, and somebody should tell Madonna that too, because she hasn't changed.
Yes, and but nobody's listening to her either. They're not. Yeah, they're true. Not. She is inconsequential now. Yes, she's a classic artist. She's a legacy artist. She still sells records. She still would probably be very entertaining live, but she's clearly trying so hard to fit in. And when I see that, I say, poor Madonna.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that thing that we started the interview with, which is like, I think music needs to evolve. I think musicians need to, like, again, going back to Frank Sinatra, I mean, he did try to change as he progressed with his later albums as well, right? But he had a very hard time with it. But I think that, like Cardi B, when she I think based off of what she's done now, when she turns 50, I don't think she's going to be around anymore. If she's writing, Wet Ass Pussy Part 5. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I can't imagine that demographic that has grown up with her is still going to be into that. If they are, then that's a problem. That says more about humanity than
right. But this goes back to the grandparent argument, which is, but the thing is, we all kind of joke about it. Like, oh, my grandparents would say, don't listen to Elvis. Right. And then our parents would say, I don't know, don't listen to Ozzy Osbourne or right. Or Marilyn Manson. And nowadays it's don't listen to Cardi B. Yeah. But incrementally, society is falling apart. It is being desensitized. It is. I mean, the internet, I can look at people getting their heads cut off. I can find it easily. I can watch people suffer. Yeah. I can, and if I'm a crazy, sick psychopath, I can enjoy watching people suffer for free. Yeah. You know what I'm saying, Lucas? So we do live in a dangerous and devastated world. And I think that's why having a positive feeling, and this is how I'm going to end. Here's my big ending. Having a positive feeling about something like your material is such a big deal because it does make me happy. It gives me joy. And I mean, it's really, I mean, from the bottom of my soul, I can't exaggerate. It's amazing material and it touches me and it excites me. And I can't wait to see where it goes next. You know what I mean?
Neither can we. We don't know. We don't know where it's going to go next. Really, not really. So we're glad that you like it. We're glad that, you know, people who have given us positive feedback on it are liking it. All I can say is, you know, don't get too comfortable with it because the next record could be something very different sounding.